Like, yeah, that's great, but like there is a whole other kind of sexy sex. Like, because for me now, like I don't want that kind of sex actually. Like I have found something way, way, way better. And I'm safe. And I'm safe like while I experience it.
Mhm.
And God, it's just so sexy because it is like two human beings playing together with like the power of the universe, with the energy
yeah.
of the universe is what it feels like.
Yeah, we're playing
And
with like stock
that,
energy.
yeah, that is only accessible to me when I feel safe. And so now like it is safety that's super sexy to me.
Mhm.
Oh shit, something just came to me that I really wanted to share, but now I forget what it was, so that'll have to come back.
Don't worry, it'll come back.
Oh man, it was so good.
Well, we were talking about safety and creating that and having that be.
Yes. Oh, yes. Like, guys, girls, everybody in between, safe can be so sexy. Like, so often our culture thinks of good sex as like insecurely attached sex. Like the sex where like the anxious partner like finally gets the attention of the avoidant, and it's everything that their parts ever wanted because it's the salvation of their trauma, like, and it's like so high, and your nervous system is just like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like, yeah, that's great, but like there is a whole other kind of sexy sex. Like,
Mhm.
because for me now, like I don't want that kind of sex actually. Like I have found something way, way, way better. And I'm safe like while I experience it.
Mhm.
And God, it's just so sexy because it is like two human beings playing together with like the power of the universe, with the energy
yeah.
of the universe is what it feels like.
Yeah, we're playing with
And
like stock
that,
energy.
yeah, that is only accessible to me when I feel safe. And so now like it is safety that's super sexy to me.
So how can partners go about cultivating that? Because that's the part outside the bedroom where it really starts.
Yeah.
And there's some in the bedroom as well.
Yes.
So enlighten us, Jordan.
Well, I'll say, because there's things that each partner can do for one another, but also things that each partner can do for themselves. So I'll just speak kind of like for me and what I needed.
Mhm.
I had to find safety inside of myself. So I had to find safety being me. I had to find safety in choosing to be ordinary Jordan. I had to find safety in like, yeah, that I was enough to experience pleasure. That I didn't have to be on the outside of that anymore. That me thinking that I was on the outside of experiencing that kind of pleasure and love and safety was, yeah, that belief just wasn't there anymore. So I had to find safety in myself. And the other thing was I had to trust myself to set boundaries, to say no when I mean no and yes when I mean yes.
Mhm.
Like to commit to myself, like sexually, to say I am not doing anything I don't want to do,
Mhm.
even if he really wants me to do it, even if I'm halfway through and I don't want to do it anymore. That was my boundary that I made with myself, is like, I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do.
Mhm.
And I will stop at any time. So it was like that was a couple of the things that I needed to find safety within myself, because like for our parts, if they don't trust us that we, like, when they stop enjoying it, that we will like stop, or that if they don't want to do something that we're going to force them to do something, like that, our parts are not going to find any safety in that.
Mhm.
And that is also bucking the patriarchy and bucking our culture of how women are taught to behave in sex. We are taught to, like, please the man at all costs. Like it's like a performance thing for women.
At all costs.
I
That's
mean,
so crazy.
kinda.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah. So I had to like completely step out of that dynamic.
Mm.
Even before I knew what a new dynamic was, I just knew I didn't want that. And then I wouldn't
Yeah.
participate in that kind of sex anymore.
And I mean, I laugh not in the sense of like, oh, I think that's stupid or silly, but it's just like, it's such a fucking mind bend for me that like that exists in the world as well. So creating safety is setting boundaries and respecting boundaries, because that is honestly, it's not that difficult to when a boundary is like crossed or a boundary is voiced, to acknowledge that and to be like, all right, that's cool. Let's take a step back from that boundary and see where we need to go. And a lot of that does come from cultivating, what do you want to say, a understanding of the need for that safety, because that's what we all create boundaries for, is to keep the integrity of our self-preservation of, I don't want to do that and I'm not going to do that. And it doesn't have to be because a lot of times what we do is we'll, what's it called, where you bring that in, we'll internalize that as, oh, you've done something wrong. You've crossed this boundary and now you're wrong. And that can really set off a lot of triggers of like, oh, well, fucking sorry for, wanting to like give you some pleasure or try to be nice to you, or, all of these kind of things where you try and protect yourself from that feeling of, I'm bad, I did something bad. Because that's the power of a boundary, is it's not so much of like, you did something bad, is I'm calling this out right now.
That's not being met, or like, this is me meeting my needs right now.
And it's an opportunity for both of you to like step back and say, okay, what do we need to do different? What's something that we can do where we can experience this and not cross that boundary? Because that's kind of the funny thing with boundaries too, is once you like open to that possibility, a lot of the times those boundaries will kind of either progress or they'll dissolve, or you'll kind of just come to understand them as something that's a necessity, and it'll be a really connecting part. And like it's one of the things that I think we don't really want to surrender to the importance of those boundaries, because we often like get triggered by when they come up.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the kind of the other aspect of, what do I want to say, doing your work outside of the bedroom or outside of like sexual experiences, that makes it really powerful when you're like, oh, okay, we've crossed a boundary. Okay, thank you for telling me. Like, let's take a step back. I don't want to cross that boundary. If that's something important to you, like really being open and genuine about honoring it.
Yeah.
And like seeing it as a real thing.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I don't know if this is exactly about boundaries, but it's about like when I, like, a part of me was afraid to step into the fullness of my feminine sexuality, my fullness of my feminine sexual experience, because it is uncontrollable and it's not always going to behave. Like sometimes it will be pleasure and orgasms, and sometimes it will be like bawling my eyes out. Like it really is. It's an experience of me, of just, for me, of like surrendering to whatever life wants to flow through me. And so like, here we go about expectations again. If I feel like you had this expectation of like me needing to be a certain way or feel a certain way, or like if tears were to come up, like that wouldn't be okay anymore. Like then I can't, like, I wouldn't be able to access the fullness of my feminine sexuality, because it would have to look a certain way. And so I think that's something that you do so well. It was like just the other night, I came and then I cried a whole bunch in between, and like you held me when I cried, and then it was time to like move on to the next thing. I was ready for more. So it was like, I don't know, you do such a masterful job of just navigating the feminine flow of things. Like I'm yawning during sex. Like I laugh sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny when you laugh.
Yeah. It's so.
I'm like, what's so funny?
Yeah. Yeah, but like it's really nice for me. Like it feels so good for me to be able to like express myself and be however feels right, instead of like however I think it should be, however other girls do in porn, or however men think it should be. It has to be something understandable. It's not going to be understandable. It's not going to make sense. It's the fucking feminine.
Hey everybody, thanks for enjoying this episode of the Heart is a Muscle podcast. We really enjoy creating this content for you, and we want to share some more resources so you can get even more content. So take it away, Jordan.
That's right. If you want to follow either one of us on socials, if you want to work with either one of us, if you want access to our YouTube channel, if you want to buy our book, links to all of that stuff is on our Patreon. So that is patreon.com/thehheartisamuscle. Now you don't have to join Patreon to get access to those links.
But you probably should. The the more that you support us and support this channel, the more that we can create this awesome content to help support you, because that's really why we do this. We want to make your guys' lives better, and your support really matters.
Yeah, and what you'll get when you join Patreon is a shout out in our next episode, and you will also get access to listener requests where you will get to request what you want us to talk about in future episodes.
So from the Heart is a Muscle podcast to you guys, thank you so much for all the support, all the feedback. We really, really enjoy it, and we'll talk to you all later.
Truly love you guys so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.